Well, welcome back. Once again, I'm Alios, being joined by Swanathan, and have our second game of the night here. For those of you who missed the first game, Swan, why don't you give us a little bit of a recap
I'm sorry,
of what we saw?
Who's Swan? I'm Swanathan apparently now. That's a new one for me, at least from you. Anywho. Nonetheless, back to Rainbow Six Siege. Aerial Rise versus the Unks. The veteran versus what I deem to be the young gun in that situation, and the Unks kind of ran away with the show at the start. They had a lot of early control, they kind of set the pacing for Aerial Rise. Around that mid-game, I think it was, 3-4, they had a round up, and eventually became up to a 5-3, and then Aerial started finding their footing a little bit, but the Unks were able to close it out, have a little bit of a better read on them there, aware of this situation, and Aerial had a struggle getting comfortable against that matchup, as the Unks were kind of in their face and reading and countering them at every turn.
There were a lot of struggles that Aerial had that last game. I would also like to point out, though, that the 5-3 you're talking about that became a 6-3 because Aerial lost a 4v2 to... I want to say it was Dead and Sta, but I could also be making that up, is I am known to do.
Known
So
liar
we'll
Alias.
I learned from the best, Mr. Aiden Happyaka Connolly, to lie and spread misinformation online.
Oh, that's so perfect. I love that. Nonetheless, though, something that is not a lie and is not misinformation is the game we have coming. KARN CO versus the 774. And oh boy, is this going to be a matchup.
Let's get right into that, though. Let's take a look at KARN, we'll say, first off of the bat. Now, these are both teams that I casted on the first day, although when I casted KARN CO, it was versus Thrive, where they lost 0-7, and Vertical didn't deal any damage.
Oh, no.
It's a little bit worrying. They also lost to, I believe it was... Yeah, they lost to the Ungs as well yesterday, actually. So KARN CO are in a very, very rough position. They're not quite at the status that we would normally expect from this roster, from the brand KARN CO. And this is going to be kind of their chance to pull things back a little bit, as they are playing 774, who did lose to the Unks previously. So hopefully this is kind of what they need to get the ball rolling.
Yeah, losing 5-7 to the Unks, and then 774 themselves actually picked up a game against the Wildcard Aces and played A2 with a 7-5 victory, which shows kind of how close these games have been for the 774 so far, and their coordinating roster of, to be honest, another team that I haven't been hearing much of or seen much of in my experience so far. The 774 is kind of unbeknownst to me, so a little bit of the same situation I personally had with the Unks of kind of a surprise. They have that opportunity to kind of show out here and prove that they can hang with the best, and I think KARN CO might be a great example to do that, because KARN CO is looking to redeem themselves here. And the roster of Coco, Qwaz, Zax, Ticey, and Firemeister are going to have to hold on, because as much as KARN CO has been seemingly struggling a little bit, it's not a team you can easily count out. So it's going to be really up to them to, more importantly, make sure that they're playing really good, really position-heavy Siege. KARN CO is a team that will take any gap you give them and run away with it if they can actually convert off of that in this moment. But if that's happening to the 774, I do worry that KARN CO might be able to consistently find their gap if they aren't aware of what KARN CO is going for here.
Yeah, so when I kind of casted 774 previously, there was a lot of either team kind of having to rely on hero plays in the end of the round, and that's not going to be something that KARN CO is going to let happen consistently. Though I guess I say that, and a lot of what won Thrive, the 7-0 they got when I casted, was the fact that KARN CO were very prone to just a guy saying, "Oh wow, a hole," and then walking in. And when you have people like QS and Coco and Ticey, they're willing to do that. Could be a little bit tricky to deal with. We do have to determine where we're going, however, so let's look at these map bans. Fortunately, we see Lair taken off the board again, so we're not going to see the first Lair come out, although I'd imagine that's not going to be more till playoffs, but we're going to have Ye Olde Faithful in Clubhouse.
I love Clubhouse. I love Clubhouse. I'm convincing myself.
Hey, me too.
I think Club is just one of those maps. You know, one of the maps where it's been in the map pool so long, it's played in a pretty consistent fashion. It's just default. which isn't, once again, not inherently a bad thing, but we already know what we're going to expect here. You're going to see probably an Azami Raptor, or maybe a Mirror Window locking it down. You're going to have a castle on the top floor. It's things that have been said and done since the olden days, that a few bans might shift the strategy a little bit, sure, but it's not going to change how the overall round is played extremely heavily whatsoever. So it's going to be kind of a similar story to last game, right? Of instead of trying to maybe spot the gap or find the unique strategy to throw off the enemy team, it's going to come down to a lot of tempo. And more importantly, how you're controlling the pace of the game against a team like KARN. Once again, seasoned, a veteran team. And for the 7-7-4 versus KARN in this case scenario, they need to make sure that KARN isn't gaining that momentum like Aerial. They're a team that builds off of that really quickly, especially now, I think, because they have been struggling a little bit. If they find success in this map, it's going to feel glorious to finally be able to overcome that little stutter they've had so far. So the 7-7-4 is going to have to play pretty stock standard, and more importantly, try and lock it down here on Clubhouse in these first few rounds to make sure KARN isn't able to run away with this.
Yeah, the big thing about that as well for me is going to be like, KARN's not like, this isn't a roster that's just going to continue saying, well, we didn't do well that game, let's just hope we do well in the next one. They're going to sit down, they're going to look at what went wrong and figure out how they want to fix it. And I think that's part of why we're going to club here, is because this is a map that KARN has been very good on historically. So kind of the start of the comeback they want to build is going to be starting on a map that's very, very good for them and very, very familiar. And that's going to lend them a little bit of a cushion to fall back on here. We do have to see if they're able to capitalize off of that, but you can kind of see the logic in wanting to go here.
Yeah, the Blitz taken off the board. Definitely some fear there. The shields have been proving very, very strong, followed by the Dokkaebi. Not unexpected. I explained it last map, just controlling that information game, trying to make sure your roam can extend as far as can be, but now it's going to be kind of up in the air. Like, Valkyrie's been banned a lot here, and that's what we're going to see, only bringing her ban percentage up, but that leaves a couple of really strong operators on the board, specifically for KARN here, as they're starting off on the defense. It leaves you the Azami, and it leaves you the Mira in play. Although I say that, and I'm going to bite my tongue, because Azami is immediately banned.
Not a surprise there, to be honest. I mean, Clubhouse is kind of a map that is affected very heavily by the way the bans progress, and just having that Azami off the board means that Raptors is going to be that little bit easier to deal with, and it's a kind of part of the map that's not... Actually, I'm going to say it is a very essential position, a very essential power position for holding CCTV, is even if you don't take control of Raptors directly, it has a lot of sway over how the rest of the round is going to progress just because of the lines of sight that it has. However, CCTV, not going to be where we're going first, as we are going to see ourselves inside of the basement here with what looks like a pretty stock standard roam, although we do have a bandit being brought out, just because KARN CO want to ensure that the mirror windows stay up and that any walls they want closed stay that way for the whole round.
And I think that kind of shows what their strategy is for this defense already. They don't have the Kaid. They aren't necessarily worried about those hatches getting opened, but they are worried about holding on to that late round utility on the site itself. They know that the expectation for this map is that you're going to have your roamers upstairs. They're either going to get their picks and get out, or they're going to struggle to hold on, and those hatches most likely are going to end up opened either way. So really bunkering down on site itself on the basement here and making sure that those positions are set in stone from the very beginning is really good foresight here from KARN. And for the 7-7-4, it's going to be a very widespread take so far. Kiwaz is already all the way up in bathroom, and he should have spotted this player on main, or at least heard him on the drone, but it seems Vertical's actually none of the wiser at the moment. I don't know how he didn't hear that bathroom being opened up. Maybe it's because of the secondary barricade, but still. Was right up on that door. He's going to break the barricade, but it's going to be Vertical sneak away just in time. Nearly a minute into this round, and not a whole lot of motion so far from the 7-7-4.
Looks like they kind of wanted to, like, cut off the roam that would be falling back, but they haven't really been pushed out of these positions yet. We're going to see Nick potentially look to fall off just a little bit, however, as he is droned out. Though there is a player, QS, like you mentioned before, sitting in this sort of Western Hall area, Gonna be providing a ton of pressure for these roamers, especially by opening up this pool table wall. But he's been playing a little bit cautiously here. However, the shield of Coco is exactly what they need to take Nick off of the board.
About halfway through their timer now. And this is exactly what KARN CO was expecting, right? They're now going to start working the hatches, trying to work the vert, learning positions like blue, maybe he's trying to work their way down main, but KARN CO prepared for this. They have those mirror windows in place, and even though you've lost the roamer, he's burned so much of their clock so far. My only worry for them is that the Monty still is on the board. Rice, find the kill onto Vax. Ticey to trade it in turn, the 7-7-4, still holding on to this man advantage, but that Monty is going to make the life of KARN CO so much harder. You are a man down, and now they have effectively a free into the objective right past all the utility you set up to try and prevent that from occurring.
Firemeister has a good cross here, which is going to make any sort of retake onto this sort of under the hatch area a little bit more difficult. It's going to pay dividends with that pick onto Asian. Another one almost comes his way, but instead it's going to be vertical in a 1 versus 4. He gets the 1 that he needs to start this off, but with so many angles looking at him, with so many players, it's all too much, and he succumbs to Ticey as 7-7-4 lock out a convincing first round.
Now, I was kind of speaking to the glory of KARN CO's setup there, of it's okay if they get the vert, and it's okay if they open the hatches, but from what I just saw, it seems it wasn't okay. As soon as that vertical control was finalized and they started working the vert, and more importantly, working their way down that area towards main and into dirt itself, KARN CO was boxed in. The utility that they set up for themselves wasn't having the impact they were looking for. The Monty effectively shut down any chance they wanted of holding dirt. And more importantly, that double cross on main that picked up a couple picks was super, super good work there from the 7-7-4 to not push into sight just yet. We know that there's going to be players holding these power positions, and we really need a pick to start working the actual objective. And it's exactly what they did. Had that buck set up, find the kill onto Asian, and from that point on, it was almost locked away for KARN CO. A 7-7-4 could just walk in the objective. Good stuff from then. Now KARN CO to head to the top floor.
5 seconds remaining.
So one kind of common theme between both the 7-7-4 games I've casted is that Coco really likes his shields. He played Blitz, I believe, every attacking round, or at least 5 of the attacking rounds they had previously against the Unks. And now, even with the Blitz ban, he's still playing that Monty. And that is... I mean, he's not going to be able to run at you with quite the speed that Blitz has, but even with the Monty, he can still take a lot of ground very quickly, and it's not like you can, like, shoot his feet or his shoulder, because his entire front body is covered, and he's not afraid to use that to walk right up to you, get in your face, and smack you down himself.
Seems to be just the theme we're seeing so far. Coco and Firemeister up on that Raptors position, trying to work this cash side, and Nick gonna be droned out. The information is that there's one player here. I'm not sure if they have any clue that there was 2 with that red player spotted on that zone, and this is where Coco's gonna shine. He's literally just gonna walk up red here. The flashbang is gonna come out, slowing him down a little bit, but KARN CO is gonna say, no thank you, I don't actually want to deal with that on the cash side. They're gonna let the Monty have it, and this opens up a ton of space for the 7-7-4. If he's down on that main breach side, and they're starting to get this little bit of a split push working here, as they work their way through construction to try and get closer to the site.
I do think I like this from KARN CO, however, is one of the things that makes Monty good is just the fact that he can, like, take a lot of space and kind of make people uncomfortable while taking
Look
that
at him.
space.
He's just there.
But, yeah, he's just here. But KARN CO, because they fell back when they did, they've preserved the man count, and so that's just another gun that's down effectively for 7-7-4. KARN CO want to lean into the fact that Monty is weakened inside of normal gunfights by keeping that man advantage up and just delaying every push that 7-7-4 has planned.
That breach is going to be tricked twice. That's no more thermite charges on the board. They're going to have to look for a different route in, and they don't have anything to deal with the mirror window. No Ash, no Kali, no Twitch run to try and pop it, so they're in a heads-up gunfight right here, not only between this bathroom player, but the mirror window as well. 45 seconds left on the clock. 774 was really waiting for that breach, and a great shot from Asian to finally open things up in the final minutes of this round. Quick trade from Kawhi. Carnage trying to hold on to that man advantage for defense, and now it's a scattered take here from the 774. Your shield doesn't have the effectiveness you want. Kawhi caught with the reload. Vax find Asian. There's so much space they have to work through here. They're just going to try and plant the diffuser. It's their only hope to try and get that timer going. Spot on the ankles, and a Carnage B flank onto the Monty to catch his head. Really good work here from Carnage to, as you said, preserve the man count in that round and ensure that 774 was taking gunfights on Karn's terms.
Yeah, you could kind of see it with, I mean, they fell back immediately, but they also just completely reinforced off logistics, which is something that's very uncommon to see on this site, even when you do fall back from cash. And that was just KARN CO saying they have the Monty. This is really like the thing that they're relying on. Let's just nullify it. Let's put them in a position where they can't just waltz in with the Monty because we have the ground that we need. And we have the other entrances to the site sealed off completely. And so that ability to adapt to the Monty, that's going to be a lot of what KARN CO needs here, is in the game versus the Unks that I casted before on Clubhouse as well. They really relied on that blitz to take space and help make the gunfights more advantageous just for themselves. And whenever the other team started to counter it, or whenever they would misuse and lose that blitz, that's when the Unks were able to more comfortably take defenses. And so if KARN CO can shut this down effectively and keep Coco from truly being comfortable on that shield, that's going to put massive pressure on 774 to rethink their strategy on the fly, whilst giving KARN CO a ton of breathing room.
Yeah, the give and take so far here from Karn and the 774, it's been a pretty even matchup so far. Despite the 774 taking that first round in a very convincing fashion, I think KARN CO had a really, really good idea there of what they wanted to do, and the 774 kind of just had the perfect potion to try and work against that. But the ability to heads up read that situation, I mean, you said it perfectly, of they just gave up the space because they know the Monty is not a gun and is literally just a rectangle put in a doorway, and if you only give him one doorway, where are the other members of the team going to come through? On top of that, the ability from Karn there to control that breach was such amazing work. We haven't seen the Two-Brow brought a ton, I think, throughout XGS Season 7, but I will say that in that round, he did wonders to try and hold on to that breach. Combined with like Kaid, it burned both thermite charges. They didn't have the ace charges rotated over. It would have been too much of a stall, but I do question for Karn, they didn't really work Logi, not Karn rather, so the 774, they didn't work Logi much there. Maybe that was their in, maybe they were just trying to rely on the Monty to walk them into sight and they didn't want to worry about Logi, but potentially having another avenue there instead of forcing yourself now through either one of two windows or that construction door could have opened up plenty of opportunity for them that Karn might not have read into there.
I mean, I think part of the reason they didn't want to push Logi was that it was reinforced off and they didn't really have like a great way to get in there, because they didn't have anything else to get the electrification off the wall, which kind of meant that they'd have to get in there by just dropping the hatch, which is usually less akin to a strategy to get in there and more of just becoming the victim of a skeet shooting incident, although I've seen crazier things happen, so it is entirely possible, but that is just kind of more of that effort from KARN CO to limit the active space, which 774 are able to take, and like you said, just forcing the Monty to be kind of occupying the only way into the site there that 774 has. Now, though, going on to CCTV, it's going to be a little bit more difficult to do that exact thing, but we are seeing that mirror window, which has become more popular, being placed onto that external wall, which might look a little bit troll, but if you open it up, it's very difficult to get that wall open since it can be impact restricted, and if you tried to place a thermite on it, goodbye to your ankles. You will not have them anymore.
They will be very, very missed. Icy, spotting out the mirror, is able to relay that information to his team, and this is where the lack of the Azami here is going to have impact. You were talking about how Rafters is a really strong power position that you've not even want, but need to hold on to if you're in this CC objective. And they're going to have to kind of take a different perspective on how they hold it. Instead of having somebody in that Rafters position themselves playing super deep, instead it's going to be the Monty walking up the stairs, Asian supporting from below, and a Crossfire, I was going to say from vertical up top, but instead now you have Firemeister on the roof finding a really, really nice angle all the way from the server window to try and get that pick. Not going to be traded back, some shots going to the ridges of the reinforcements there outside, but still, KARN CO, a little bit footsie here as they lose that space in Rafter. Nick is able to trade it back, but there's so many opportunities for the 774 to move up here.
Yeah, I do really like the way they use that Monty, combined with the angle that Firemeister has, great name by the way, to get that early pick onto Vertical. Vertical's also just a good player to shut down, as we kind of know what he is capable of doing once he is able to get up and running and get comfortable. But he hasn't been able to do that so far. Raptors control has been acquired for 774, but Nick is on a flank here that could potentially lead to something. You probably can't climb up the ladder, but if someone else wants to walk up the stairs, then he might have an angle on that. But no, gonna ignore everything I say, and he is spotted out, but it's not gonna lead to a kill just yet.
I am astounded by Nick's tenacity there to just walk up that ladder. It's going to be a quick gunfight here for Asian, though, able to take out Kiwaz. The Monty in the Raptors position should know he's there, but it's not actually the Monty. Swapped out instead for Firemeister. They should have control of the site. Diffuser is going down, dropped right onto the head of Nick. Only about 24 HP remaining. Has to contend with not only the Monty, but a full HP Ticey with a breach charge and a stun in their pocket. 3 fires toward the construction side. Spotted her head snaking around the corner. He has to tap at least once here. It's twice now. 3 times. Hops off. Knows the Monty's pressuring him off. Ticey is fallen away. The Monty doing absolute wonders in keeping Nick occupied. Feeding that information to Ticey. All he has to do is retreat. Runs up on the doorway. It's the pre-fire, and it's the round on the back of the Monty.
Yeah, they really... I mean, it is easy to call it a crutch, the Monty, but they have been using it very effectively. They're making the lives of anyone who has to go up against it a living hell. And on a site where it's less easy to just box the defenders out by occupying all but one doorway, KARN CO aren't able to keep him out as much. They're gonna look to go back down to Church and Arsenal here to see if they can fix something up from their previous attempts. And they're changing a lot of things out, actually. Bringing things like a Dubro and a Legion that we didn't see before. So we'll have to see if that's kind of the success that KARN CO needs. But by this point, they do also have to be worried about the fact that 774 is a team that once they start to get comfortable, they are definitely able to string rounds together quite effectively.
Yeah, and that's my worry here for KARN. I was talking about how the momentum game was actually going to shift into their favor at the start of this match. I was feeling confident that KARN, this might be KARN's time to rise and shine from the little struggle they've been having, but it's not the case so far. KARN's look pretty okay, but still, the 774, and more importantly, this Monty play, KARN doesn't really have a solution for it yet. They gave up the space on that bedroom gym area, and that was a perfect read into that, but even so, if 774 just had a little bit in the change-up of the utility in their pockets, that round would have been very difficult for KARN CO to win, so they're going to have to find a solution to stop the 774 from gaining so much space for free simply because of a Monty shield.
See how they end up going about that in this round. Looks like there's a lot more of a mitigated room presence from KARN CO this time. But imagine they're like doing things like poking up staircases and whatnot. That is pretty standard for this site. But they're not exposing themselves upstairs like they did with the Monty. So that's kind of what allowed a lot of the round to go the way it did, was just the fact that Monty was able to kind of worm his way into some uncomfortable positions. And it looks like they're kind of trying to replicate a little bit of that magic from Gym and Bedroom of just everyone's on the site and the Monty has no easy way in. There's no easy straggler to pick off. That does, however, have the detriment of allowing a lot of time for 774 to work these external parts of the map and get more pressure onto the site.
Yeah, KARN CO here is going to have to be aware of the gaps they had the last time they were on this objective. That is this walk down on main. That's currently being held thanks to the two-brow locking down that Logi hatch. You can play in that little box, Moto hatch rather, not the Logi hatch, excuse me. And now they have this little box to play in where they have another angle they can look towards main with because of the control that they had. Flashbangs trying to shut those players down. The peek from main. Shots aren't going to connect. Asian is going to be spotted, but 774 have yet to find their opening. The kitchen hatch should be open. I'm not sure about Dirt so far yet, but their clock is ticking down, and a long arm Nitro Cell from Vertical is going to remove that pressure from main.
Great toss from Vertical. The smoke as well from Nick. He's working wonders on holding off Monty inside of Dirt. He only has a limited supply, however. So the hope's going to be to whittle down the rest of the attack bit by bit, so they can worry more about this Monty later. He's just going to try to tank the smoke damage, but it does a ton to him. But he gets that pick onto Nick. KARN, though, has another C4. He's going to put a little bit more pressure on that Monty, who might not know about this player tucked up on this Arsenal rack. KARN and Asian tag on for 2 more, then Vertical finishes it off as KARN CO find the answer to the Monty on this basement site.
Yeah, the shield not going to be doing the dreams it was making for 774 in those rounds previous, and I think that can really be attributed to, honestly, them just simply holding on to that Moto hatch. Being able to play that box in Moto, stump that attack side on main, they realize now, okay, our options are A, drop the kitchen hatch, which is, I think you put it as, like, you turn yourself into a skeet shooting competition or something like that, which is excellently put, because that's effectively what it is when you drop a hatch directly in front of 2 to 3 defenders, or try and work Dirt, and which they were met with heavy resistance this time. It was 3 smoke canisters to shut down the Monty. He got a pick, but there were so many guns pointed at the door that as soon as he dropped his shield to ADS and get that pick, he was almost immediately traded out again. So KARN finding the solution-oriented rounds they need to shut down that Monty and decrease the impact it's having on their defensive setup overall.
So unfortunately, I didn't hear a word you just said because my internet was dying.
Oh,
took a little bit of the pain with Andrew tonight, but I did hear about the Monty at the end with him ADSing to try to get the gunfight. See, that's kind of, I mean, exactly what KARN CO wanted to do with that smoke, and I'm kind of want to point it out as well. Just delay him long enough that they could whittle down the rest of the offense, so once he actually tries to go for something, he's just caught in an uncomfortable position and isn't properly able to make anything work. Now we're going to see the same thing with Jim, most likely, or at least some variation of it come out again. As it worked pretty flawlessly once, why not try it again? But that does also leave an opportunity for 774 to adapt to what happened. So we'll have to see kind of what the risk versus reward that KARN CO chooses to go for is.
I have a pretty strong feeling that as soon as this Monty gets in server here, that Vertical's going to choose to take his leave again. That was the play last time from KARN, to void that space, give them cash, really not have to worry about getting forced out by the Monty, and he's going to jump back through that Logi rotate hole, and his teammate's going to scurry away toward the main objective of side as well, but I don't know if they've reinforced it just yet. Yep, and there they are. We can see him through the wall right now. Closing off that route into Logi. This is exactly what they did last time, but the difference here for 774 is they've brought the ace to this side of the map. An opportunity to get back into Logi, but I'm going to bite my tongue. They line up for Carnage. The Vector rips through both of them. You lose the ace and the Ash.
Beautiful swing from KARN. Hopefully we'll see that one on Twitter later. And it negates a lot of the impact that that side of the map was going to have. The extra avenue that they wanted to open up, now null and void. We are going to see potentially a little bit of Logi being opened up just because the Thermite is able to do it with an extra Thermite charge. Or he might like to just rotate inside completely. Monty's on the Logi hatch. Could potentially lead to something. QS has a kill of his own onto KARN. And there's only about a minute left here, but it's not an impossible position so far.
Oh, that's so sad. Vax had the play. Vax was going to rotate over, open the Logi breach, and let Del Monte drop with him as the breach opened to try and get control. What? Huh? What the huh? How does that happen? He's knocked on. He's I'm speechless. I send that into Ubisoft. He was on the floor, and then he gets up, and then he counter melees and wins it. I am appalled at what I just witnessed. If somebody tries to tell me that shields are not fundamentally broken at their core, not like broken overpowered, just simply broken, I am showing them that.
Yeah, that was something. Wrong keybinds.
What did I just?
I don't.
What even happened?
I guarantee you, from what I know about how Coco is, we're gonna see that on Twitter later, so we'll get to see kind of his perspective on it as well as the reaction to it, just depending on how things go. It does put KARN CO in a pretty precarious position, however, since they do have to go back to a site which they lost pretty convincingly previously, although we're able to see if they're able to pull some sort of basement-esque magic on CCTV here, which it looks like the Echo is going to be an attempt to do that, as well as the Frost being brought by Carnage. So we'll see if those two operators are able to kind of be the catalyst that Karn needs to stop that Monty in its tracks.
Apparently, they don't need to stop it. I'm still like, I'm recovering. I'm recovering, Alias. I'm mentally recuperating from the tomfoolery that I just witnessed. Anywho, Raptor position once again held by Vertical. To be aware of that angle behind him this time. They do have the Monty once again trying to force him out Rafter. And on top of that, we also have Vax. The Capital, which hasn't really been needed so far in clearing Rafter, but those Firebolts, they're such a unique lineup you can do them that splashes that fire onto the Rafters player. So if they have the utility to clear these Wamai discs here, Vertical could be sitting in a very dangerous spot. Qaz working himself toward the main breach, Ticey prone behind and try and maybe look for that pick. And the Maverick trick isn't going to come through just yet, but in the meantime, this breach should be opened.
It's going to be open very, very quick. There's benefit of not having to cut around the mirror window. Karn's going to take a very aggressive position, however. Looking to see if we get a pick. I don't think he's going to come of it, but he's able to get back safely, so it's not a bad play by any means. The big thing here that I want to look for is just whether or not 774 kind of figured out where that Echo is. Because that's kind of what KARN CO is not going to rely solely upon to stop the Monty, but something that's going to be certainly a big part of this defensive plan. And so if 774 are able to realize that and just make Nick disappear before he has impact, that could be huge for them.
Yeah, kind of their insurance policy here, and the 774 hasn't gained a ton of ground so far. They have that main breach open, but not a large footing in Rafter, and 2 picks to the side of KARN CO as well is going to make that even harder. Coco trying to work his way up Rafters this entire round so far to no avail. He hasn't been able to find that positioning on the stairs yet. Last time, the supporting player is going to take out that player in stock, and now Vax is going to get on that rappel and take off the head of Carnage B, but Asian says, no, I'm going to trade that out for myself. Finds the kill onto Firemeister. Vertical, still tucked in Rafters. Vax for 2, takes out Rice on that close red angle, and Coco's just feeding him the information of, yeah, this player's on Rafters still. You don't have to worry about him. We've got him locked down. He's worried about fighting me, but still pops up to try and take him down. A good little crossfire, and now it's the down player on Rafter, but losing your only up gun in that situation. Vax goes down, and it's the Monty behind the rectangle of hope to try and secure this round. Swinging the Rafter head holes, spotted out on the Echo Cam at every turn, hops in toward that default plant. No Nitro Cell in the pockets. I think they have 1 impact left, potentially. Now off the diffuser. 10 seconds left. Swings toward the side of red, instead gets caught to the server side by Asian. KARN CO. Great work.
Ooh. It was a very deliberate map control being held by KARN there, and the way they did it was, I think, a little bit more off-putting for 774 that time. Because there's really no easy way to get anything, right? We didn't see the first pick that KARN had, but the walk into stock had so many different angles looking at it that Asian could play from, that it was really kind of doomed from the start there. And that just cascading man effect just makes things worse and worse and worse for the Monty. You don't have a full-on gun. You have a pistol, which some people are cracked AF, as the kids like to say. But
Okay.
so are the players on KARN CO. and it's not exactly an advantageous fight. And they found themselves going up 4-2-2, which is pretty good so far. It's definitely a respectable half from them.
And this is where the momentum shift that we were kind of talking about might occur, of now KARN in their comfort zone and starting to kind of feel themselves again. They'll look back to their previous successes and go, okay, 7-7-4 got a couple up on us. We resolved the issue of the Monty on defense, so even if this somehow manages to go to OT instead of staying in regulation, we're fine there. Now it's time to figure out what we need to do on our attacking half, right? Of analyze what the 7-7-4 is bringing, if it's going to be a similar lineup, if it's going to be something different entirely than to what we were expecting, because KARN CO has very obviously done their homework, right? They took down one of the shields, the Blitz, in their ban phase, because they know that individuals like Coco like to bring that, which only speaks to the rest of how they pre-gamed this matchup and how they see what the strategy could be for 7-7-4 as they swap to their defense here.
You're going to see the Vigil Boss G being brought up, I believe, for the first time here by Ticey. He's going to feel a little bit of pressure from the Jacuzzi with that being opened up, which is going to inspire him to walk down the main stairs just a little bit, falling into first floor bathroom. The key here for 7-7-4 is going to be to make sure that KARN CO can't just isolate them. KARN CO is a team that's absolutely willing and capable of just isolating any fights that they are given. QS, though, gets the opener onto Asian, as he has the better angle in that gunfight. He has the, I think, element of surprise. They didn't really know he was coming, or at least not coming that fast. And that is Asian taken off the board, who is the top frag for KARN CO at this current point in time, tied with Carnage B, actually. And it also takes the Jackal off the board, which means operators like Vigil that are roaming around upstairs are a little bit more potent than they were before.
Playing towards that side of main. He's just dodged him so far. This could be the timing of a lifetime for Ticey here if decides to walk up. Being held. Decides to rotate back down to site. Maybe rotate through blue. Maybe find a different way up, because he wants to stay engaged right now. The 7-7-4 has a pick. He's playing Vigil. There's not much utility he brings to the site itself, so he has the opportunity here in freedom to kind of go for those roam plays and try and make them work. KARN CO now getting into the meats of the round, trying to close down these hatches. The two brow being brought on the defense of the 7-7-4 as well. Making sure that those hatches aren't an easy game to take. Like I said, Ticey trying to do his best. He's going to pick up two on the flank. The Boss G walking back up blue. Now close in stock.
Oh, no.
Caught with the wrong gun in his hands, thinking he has an opportunity to reload. He's only good for two as he gets taken down by Nick. But the damage is already done. You've lost so much here if you're KARN CO. So much ground you need to retake. You can start working the hatches. You can start moving towards site, but it's now a 2v4 situation, and you have to contend with those mirror windows still, as well as those dread mines put in place by the Fenrir. Clock continuing to tick in their back line. KARN CO scrambling for a pick. It's going to have to be Rice and Nick to move it down main very, very quickly. Dreadmine is going to feed them the information. And Nitro Cell from the long arm. Vax on the long angle. Nick finding the head of Firemeister, but there's too much gunfire heading his way. He gets caught in the crossfire, and the 7-7-4, off of an amazing flank by a Vigil, closes out their defensive round.
I really am a little bit confused how that happened, because it looked like they knew that he was there, with Vertical kind of like being wary of that angle. But he gets not only the kill onto Vertical, or the down onto Vertical, but then the kill onto KARN as well, who comes and tries to refrag his teammate. And then he does end up getting killed off as he kind of gets caught in a moment of weakness trying to reload, but at that point, the damage is done. There's 36 seconds left, and 2 versus 4 the KARN have to contend with. That's not the spot they want to be in for that. Right? And it is just one play, and it's obviously not the thing that solely lost KARN CO the round, but just I'm more concerned with the fact that it was allowed to happen with evidently some sort of information on him being present. And those little kind of lapses in play or lapses in communication is something that 7-7-4 are more than equipped to deal with. So they need to... But that's something that KARN CO need to lock up if they want to continue doing well in this half.
Yeah, and trying to make sure that 7-7-4 can't consistently capitalize on those gaps if they're being made or if they're there, or even if they're not, because as you said, with the information being present, the Vigil, not a fear in his fear in a piece of his soul. He just walked up with that boss team swing too. So trying to be more aware of that, analyze that, and more importantly, play to the idea that you're trying to close those up and lock down those flank positions. But it's going to be the gym bedroom side. Coco, a very forward hold here, supported by Firemeister on this red. We see the Grim potentially trying to work this breach by himself. I know he should have the EMPs to try and support opening this breach with the ace, and with it being ace, it should be open. Throw one on both sides. He has to trick one side, other side gets open, but there's so much presence over here stopping this breach as well as it finally gets opened up.
There's a lot of presence over here, even after the breach is open, that KARN CO are going to have to clear out if they want any hope of taking this side. Grim is a pretty solid operator to do it, and they also have the benefit of having that Demos, which can feed a lot of information towards anyone that looks to get these peaks going. Although it looks like 774 are going to pull a little bit of a KARN CO and just fall back here and just prevent KARN CO from getting an early man advantage. There is still some aggression being thrown their way, but they do mostly want to preserve the man count they have here and force KARN CO into less advantageous fights later in the round.
F not ready to go.
To try and re-drone here, regain that information. Should be one trick on the Jacuzzi side. Now down both thermite charges. I don't know if he put a new one on the board or even the East has a couple left, but still, that's a pretty long rotate to try and go into open Jacuzzi. And now they're forced to try and work the Logi hatch. Jacuzzi should remain closed for the remainder of this round, or at least not until the very final moments of it. So, KARN CO needing to find their avenue in. Nitro self in the Virtus. Ticey runs his way downstairs. Could have huge impact later here into this round, as 774 has kind of just been allowed to hang out on site. They have the utility set in place. They wasted the time that they wanted. He spots him on the cross, not able to convert it into a kill. Vertical, opening things up though. Quaz, nowhere to move but forward, and now it's going to be the Grim Bees in motion. It's going to be the flashbangs going through toward the bathroom side. They spot both players out. They know the frostbite's on this window. 3 flashbangs to go through. His teammate hops in the window, heading toward that default plant spot. It's crossfires from all angles. They need to defend Carnage B if they want to get this diffuser down. You only have 20 seconds. Diffuser now put in place. The defenders need to flip, retake their own side against the attackers here. Carnage pops up from the diffuser, finds a pick onto Max. Nick with one for himself on the round. Ticey skating through on this construction side. Fighting highway, caught from behind, and it's KARN CO who absolutely dismantle the hold 774 had on that objective.
Yeah, it does look like it's going a bit slow there, as you kind of started to point out, but KARN CO, I think there was just trying to be a little bit more thorough than they were that first round, just really make sure that they had everything in place that they needed before they went for that execute, and that allows them to kind of have everything happen all at once rather than taking several steps all in a row. And that overwhelms the players on 774, and especially after they got that opening pick onto the Fender inside of construction, that just gives them that little bit of leverage they were looking for so they can explode onto the side, get in there, and get the picks they need. And more importantly, have the space to cover KARN getting that plant down. And that's going to inspire a repeat of this side from a 774 with a Goyo instead of a Fenrir, but that is a very good precedent being set by KARN CO.
And I'm not even sure what the issue was for the 774 there. They honestly looked really, really good. As soon as Carnage hopped in, he caught a couple rounds in his side. I thought it might have been over for him, but no, KARN CO gets that diffuser down. The teamwork there to not only dump that utility toward the bathroom shower area to prevent those individuals from peeking. It's just really, really good zoning from KARN there. 774 had a great position setup to try and counteract exactly what KARN was going for, and still KARN CO commits the utility to the perfect areas to make it work. So trying to recreate that magic here, as you said, heading back to the same site, and the 774 is going to have a little bit of a different story this time. The breach opened much faster. You're missing the tube around. Not much you can really do there, as well as losing that mirror window immediately is going to put a heavy threat toward that Jacuzzi side.
They also managed to, just do it so fast there that it really wasn't a good way to counter what was being done. The run out from QS does deal a good bit of damage to Asian, but he isn't killed in that endeavor. And it looks like as 774 look to adapt to KARN CO's plans, KARN CO responds in kind with their own set of adaptations, working things very, very efficiently here. They've already done quite a bit for it being so early on in the round. And that's going to benefit them a lot as we go into this second half. That's going to give them so many areas of phantom pressure and real pressure once they start looking to fish for that opening pick so they can have some control of the site again.
Speaking of fishing for the opening pick, Kiwaz is casting a wide net here. Attempted run out, now he's rotating to try and catch a player on the rappel. He is wanting to try and shut KARN CO down before they get the execute going here, just based on what they saw last round alone. They do have the Nitro Cell in the pocket of Coco that could be used to try and close that out, and Nick spots the player jumping through, isn't able to find him in time, but Ticey re-swings and falls to the nade. Poetry in motion there between Nick and Ticey. One gets the headshot, the other one gets the frag grenade kill. Even man count now. KARN CO still trying to find their in. Diffuser left on the roof here for Vertical to pick up as they're going to start making their way toward Logi. They're going to come that pick was found, obviously. Showed up in the kill feed. So that opens up an opportunity for them to hit the site from the other side here. Drone work. Spots the Goyo in Logi. He retreats back. Sneaks his way into the corner. It's 30 seconds left. KARN CO has to make their move sometime soon, and here comes the execute. Nitro Cell from below, only gonna find one for KARN CO's two. Coco makes his way back up main. His teammate Firemeister is alone in sight. Spots the crossfire from Logi. Only hears the shots to take down his teammate, and now it should easily be the diffuser going down. Pre-fires either side, but caught on the ankle by Rice. Picked apart once again by KARN CO.
Even with that opening pick going the way of 774 in a little bit of a goofy fashion there, I still do like the way that KARN CO looked to play that. By getting all of that ground open in the early round, once they started getting to the late round where it was kind of crunch time, most of the heavy lifting was already done. It was about identifying where the gaps for 774 were and then rotating to the corresponding thing that had already been opened up and utilized previously in the round. And it just creates this effect of 774 not really knowing where the attack is going to come from until it actually happens. And by that point, the person's already dead, and it's just far too late for them to really work anything, which is going to inspire another site rotation down to the basement this time, which they have won previously, where KARN CO have kind of figured out the attacking formula they need, at least with Gym and Bedroom, to beat 774 and take these rounds. And that's going to give them a lot of confidence going into this last round, especially for someone like Nick, who's been on fire that's attacking half.
Yeah, adapting to the Monty this time. Carnage himself going to be bringing it as they attack this basement side. And this scoreline is exactly what we saw last map between Ariel and... oh my goodness, why can't I remember the team I just casted? God.
The Unks. I'm surprised you forgot the Unks, honestly.
Jesus, me too. That was such like a brand-new moment. Nonetheless, similar scoreline and similar story here for the 774. It's now all on the line. KARN CO has gained the momentum back in full swing. They've solved you out 2 rounds, and it's going to take a lot to try and claw this game back. Not undoable in the slightest, working their way toward dirt here. They are going to have to contend with the Kaid, who's going to rotate his claw off for now, but KARN CO has just shown so much composure so far.
They're really letting anything fall by the wayside. They did lose that first round, but I think that's more of a feeler round for how 774 wanted to play their defenses than it was like KARN CO kind of slipping. I mean, they did slip up a lot, but in doing so, they did give a lot of information about how 774 are going to look to play this. See if they're able to translate that any farther, however. As KARN CO have responded with a Monty of their own here, so Coco's gonna have a little bit of competition from the man of the hour himself. As he looks to start pushing down, it looks less like dirt here.
Trying to open up these hatches still. Not a whole lot to work with using the ace charges. We saw the Habana brought last time to open these, and I think that's, in all honesty, a little bit more effective than what Vertical's currently trying to do on that rappel. But still, as much as KARN CO is a team that we've seen have amazing composure so far, I do worry about the timer. 60 seconds left. The execute's going to have to start being worked, and it's going to be chaotic once it comes. Tycee taking out Asian as well. You lose the Bees. That revealer on site that's let you find a couple of picks in the past, especially on Shower upstairs. And now the 7-7-4, all they have to do is shore up the holes on this defense. KARN walking his way through dirt. Spots out the Kaid in the corner. He's going to retreat back to site. The hatch is open right into the crossfire of Vertical. The AK-12 going to be ripping him to shreds. But for now, it's almost looking like this drop is somewhat free as long as they prevent this Monty from walking in. And I was going to say that he's going to have an opportunity to find a great shot, but that's the most ridiculous trade I've seen in my life. Firemeister to catch him falling down the hatch with a headshot, only to be downed. Carnage able to finish him off, down but not out, and he's now going to be removed off the board. The plant should go down easily here. Swings out for Vertical. Quaz trades on to Nick, and he's up in the face of the Monty already. It's the Vertical taken out. Carnage B. The Monty in the corner, having to do all the work. Shots connecting with Tycee, but it's not going to be enough. Quaz on his right side, and he's able to land the headshot in the final moments. 7-7-4 is clinging to life.
If only barely, that was still a fairly convincing take from KARN CO just up until that last second, with especially that beautiful shot that Firemeister hits onto the dropping player. Just the ability to shut down so thoroughly what KARN CO had been planning. It's exactly what the doctor ordered, exactly what they need to completely shut them out. This creates a conundrum, however, for 7-7-4, as they need to go somewhere else. They've only been able to win the basement so far. And it looks like they're going to go back to gym and bedroom here to see if that ends up panning out a little bit better than it did either of the previous two times, with a setup leaning more towards what their first attempt at this bomb site looked like. So we'll see if that ends up kind of being what they need. Well, KARN CO, they're going to see the site choice, and they're going to be feeling pretty good about it.
I mean, this site's KARN's bread and butter at this point. They've picked apart the 7-7-4 both times that they were here. It's going to have to be a pretty drastic change. As much as we can bring the same lineup here for 7-7-4, because I would agree, this is more emblematic of their first attempt at this hold, but still, you have to be more in the face of KARN CO here on this side, I feel. You have to be willing to fight for some of these power positions, because even if you have the man count on this site and it's a 5v5, when it comes execute time, KARN has been ready. They've had the perfect utility, they've had their crossfire set up, and it hasn't worked out for you. So you need to be the ones to disrupt KARN's attack before it even gets to your front door.
Yeah, like the quick falling off they've been doing so far, like it does have the benefit of preserving the man count and forcing KARN to take less advantageous gunfights, but it also just gives up a lot of space early, and like you said, just allowing KARN CO to have that space and not forcing them to really work hard for things. Something KARN CO is very good at taking advantage of. We're going to see an early attempt to be made onto this jacuzzi wall here, which is going to be delayed with the help of a Tubero. So it isn't going to be completely tricked with the way the Tubero works now, but it is still going to take quite a while to get that open now, just because of the fact that he exists. Which is a good start for 7-7-4. Just waste a lot of the time, with the efficiency being something that mattered so much for KARN CO previously.
Did the breach pop? Is Jacuzzi breach open already?
Is it?
Surely not. And nonetheless,
I hope not.
Oh my god, it is!
No.
The two brows, I don't know if it was a mistiming, a misplacement, what have you, but the sole purpose of bringing that denial to try and stall that so they don't have that position set up for the execute is now going to be exactly the situation you're in. Nick finding the opening pick as well, that it almost looks like a mirror image to what we saw for the 7-7-4 last time. They have the angles into sight. They aren't worried about the mirror windows. They swing from Quaz, hopeful it's not going to find the connection he needs. Coco on his trade, though. 4v3. Now with 3v3, bot back in play. Vertical trades it back, holding on to that man advantage for KARN. He missed him on the highway window. Rice, you had the perfect corner. It's KARN on match point. 3v1. Firemeister, you know he's out there, tucked behind the jacuzzi itself, trying to make his way outside. He wants a pick, trying to stay in this game, but Nick lurking up main. KARN CO eating big tonight as they come out of their slump and take down the 7-7-4.
Finally have a win, and with that, every team in Group B now has collected a win so far. And hopefully, for KARN CO's sake, this is the start of a good comeback for them. They are invited to the close qualifiers of the tournament coming up called Wildcard Restart, which is just a rebranded breaking point for those of you who might be a little bit out of the loop. And so because of that, they're going to want to just they want to be prepared. They don't want to go into that and just lay down and die. You need all the game day practice you can get. And it looks like this new roster they have is finally starting to coagulate into one coherent unit and find their footing just in time as well.
Yeah, and it looked much more similar to the comfort level that we usually see from KARN. As soon as they had a read into what the 774 was doing, specifically on Gym Bedroom, it's honestly impressive that every single time that site was played, no matter the adaptations, changes, or lack thereof from the 774, it went to the side of KARN. Speaking to how they're kind of feeling it out now as a roster of everyone's working cohesively. You had Nick lurking up main there, but you had Ticey making sure that as much as he wants to hold down this side of the map, no, we're going to take cash. We're going to lock down this Logi side and split up this side. Really, really great work from them. But let's take a look at the overall standings here for our tournament so far, as that is our final game for the day, but this is the group stages. Let's go Group B here. Trying to see the standings so far. Thrive holding on to the top, the Unks close behind, especially after today's victory. Wildcard Aces in third, and the teams we saw earlier of Rise and KARN sneaking in there as well.
What I see personally, just based off like just how this looks purely, game of Thrive versus Unks, which is going to be on the docket at some point this season, but we'll have to see when that ends up coming to fruition. We could throw it over to the A group for a little bit here, just to kind of see what's going on over there and see what they're cooking.
I think every game I've casted so far, at least had the joy of watching, has almost been a Group B game.
Me as well. Only casted and really had the time to watch. I did watch a little bit of Sesh today, as they fell 7-2 to final form with not looking good for them. If them, this group was a lot more top heavy than the other one. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, I was gonna say,
it
seven
seems
more
to be
battalion, but like, yeah,
you have this like distinct split from the positive differentials to, I guess, the bottom three here, who are, to be honest, looking a little bit rough so far.
Yeah, especially with some of the names that we're seeing in like the bottom. Like we have people like Xsiege, who has been in T2 before, as well as like just Team Sesh that was in T2 recently, just kind of sitting at the bottom, even after playing 2 games each. It's a pretty odd position for them to be in, but nonetheless, we do have kind of the expected things, I would say, at the top, with SG Academy and Makers both holding up that top end, with Makers more out of those two being kind of the clear favorites, but SG Academy still, I mean, you expect them to be in that position. It's SG Academy, they're good.
Yeah, and maybe for teams like Sesh, they're going to have their renaissance again. Maybe they'll have a game like we just saw with KARN, of kind of something to bring them out of a potential slump, maybe just a little bad game streak. It happens to the best of us, but as we close out here today, that is going to be our final game for the night. Me and Alias had a blast casting with y'all, and more importantly, thank y'all for coming, and there will be more XGS to come, so tune in next time, and thank you for coming tonight. Have a good one, y'all.